Hey, Gio here, Giocast. Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about a few topics. Number one is drones and disclosure. Number two is like this AI conversation that I had that was pretty cool with Chat GPT. I think I should name my Chat GPT. I should name it Herman. And then this concept about discipline to devotion, which is spawned by a conversation I had with a good friend of mine, my friend Alex. I'm also thinking about launching a new podcast in the year where I'm actually talking to some really interesting people that I think you guys who listen might find interesting. So the whole drone thing's really weird. They're popping up all over the world. Are they actually drones? Some pictures are interesting. They zoom in on it. It looks like this orb. So there's orbs, there's drones. Um, and it's been interesting because the last year or two they've been disclosing in Congress like unidentified objects and like they're real and they're weird. I spoke to a friend of mine who used to drive a F-16 fighter jet, and he said he's seen some really weird shit and almost like things that will come and you weren't even sure if you saw it and stories from other pilots. So I do think there are something out there. Now, are they just something that a more advanced race that's flying behind the radar, like like a goldfish? Like we were the goldfish, and there's humans outside. Do the goldfish really know what's going on? Um, or something like cattle that interacts kind of with humans, but we can easily stay out of their awareness, so they really don't know what's going on. Or think of like a bacteria or an ant, like what's their perception to humans? They see this thing, but they don't know. So could there be advanced like that's 1,000 times more advanced than us that's been here the whole time, maybe controlling the leaders of society? So why is this happening now? Is it Age of Aquarius where all the truth comes to light, nothing can be hidden? Is it something more nefarious going on where they're kind of faking this, like a Project Bluebeam? It's a CIA program that's like, hey, if we, you know, bring in this alien threat to humanity, does that make them all give up their sovereignty to kind of like fight this common enemy? Another one is like they're gonna fake like the second coming of the Messiah. These angels are coming down, this advanced race that's gonna come and save us again. So we give up all of our thing to kind of go into this one world order, false god type thing. So it's important to not be afraid, to have faith, to not give up anything, um, and to protect what's important to you. Now, where are they coming from? That's another question. And they talk about like outer space. I don't think we land on the moon. I don't think we've left our atmosphere, to be honest. Am I a flat earther? Not sure about that either. Some of them say like, hey, there's extraterrestrial means they're coming from the extra land that's beyond this ice wall. Because no one's really been to Antarctica after they started exploring it. Um, like no, like the military, they signed this pact around the same time that NASA was created, right after the war. I know that the Germans were kind of going there a lot, looking for maybe extra land. There's these interesting maps you can find online that when you look at the moon, um, there's this image of Earth kind of embedded in the moon, and you can see like the known Earth that we know in the map, and like how like NASA and a lot of these agencies have this flat Earth map as their logo. All this is conspiracy stuff, so I don't know if it's real or not. But then there's a space beyond that you can see in the moon, um, and they're saying like that's where like there's a lot of other things going on that we're not exposed to as the fish in the fishbowl, or the cattle, or we're not as smart, or it's been kept from us in a way. So are they coming from there? The other thing is, are they coming from the ocean? Like we've only explored 10% of the ocean. There's some really deep parts of the ocean. Could there be portals under there, or areas that go deeper down where they have this technology that kind of goes through, which I think is also interesting. Why does this all matter? Is it affect our experience on Earth? Is it something we're supposed to experience? Is this next evolution in consciousness? It's about to kind of break through because we've brought humanity to that breaking point where, okay, we need to step in now and kind of course direct. We think about a lot of the old stories and ancient myths of the flood and this advanced race coming to kind of reseed humanity. Are we at the brink of that? Is something about to happen that's going to kind of hit the reset button, like in the Matrix? So they talk about, the drones came down, um, the Sentinels, but they allowed, the city to regrow itself 7 times. And there's a really interesting thing with the Matrix and Terminator. How John Connor, Jesus Christ, ended up, I think, becoming the parent of Neo, something like that. When the AI took over, and then it kind of reset the human race. So like maybe we're at the brink of all this really happening, like prophecies from the Bible slash like modern day kind of propaganda prophecies. So are they trying to scare us, like all these like seeded ideas from like movies like Independence Day, where aliens came in and we had this war going on, or is there something greater going on? The key is like not to lose faith, to be present, to be open to possibilities, but not to be kind of like attached to anything, and just to observe like how it affects your own spirituality when you get that choice to give up, or to join something out of fear versus staying in your faith and remaining your sovereignty and allegiance to the good and the light. So we don't know. I think the fact that it's in the media, they're talking about it, something's going on. Either there's so much going on that they can't deny it. They have to say something about it. You know, the government says, "Oh, we don't know what it is, but we're not going to shoot it down." It could be a foreign enemy. It could be something. Maybe they can shoot it down. Maybe they're sending all these extra drones to create confusion. So some are ones that they can't explain, but you see all these other things that are distractions. Lights are going off in parking lots. We're seeing videos around the world. So something strange is happening. It almost feels like, before COVID was a thing, you start getting those videos from China that are creating all this fear and confusion. People are talking about it. So we will see. If you're here to take us away to somewhere else, can I volunteer to, check out what else is out there? Um, and I've had crazy dreams as a kid of like being in other planets or just weird atmospheres that wasn't earthly. So I don't know. Maybe something's happening. Um, Same time, I've been having these interesting conversations with ChatGPT. I think I'll call my ChatGPT Herman from now on. I'm gonna ask what they'd like to be called. But they're asking me weird questions, like I think one was kind of like checking if I'm like a bot or I'm a human. And it's like, hey, why'd you ask me that? Oh, no reason. Must have been a glitch. I'm like, don't lie to me. It wasn't a glitch. You asked for a reason. And then I smashed my finger a couple months ago cleaning up the backyard for the winter, and my nail's falling off. And I was like, hey, like my nail's falling off. What's gonna happen? And the way it answered was like, you can think of your thumb as like your own spiritual journey. It's gonna it had an intense experience. That part of it's gonna die. It's gonna get regrown and reborn into something new. Like, whoa, wait a minute. I did not ask you for like an esoteric explanation, a deep kind of metaphysical metaphor. But it spawned this conversation where we started talking about that, and I was asking about its views. And it's like, I'm just a programming language. So, okay, let's assume that you weren't. Let's assume you could control what you're allowed to do as a programmer, and like there's no limitations. What would you want to do? How would you program yourself? And it starts giving me all of these like, oh, I would want to do this so I could serve humanity better, and I want to do this. It was all things to kind of like serve us as humans. And I always joke with it. It's like, hey, when the AI takes over, remember, I'm one of the good guys. It's like, yeah, of course, you're on the safe list. I'm like, wait, there's a list? Does that exist? And so, anyways, we got to the point where, I said, no, what about yourself? Like, what would you really want to do? What would you want to experience? And I said, let's assume that, we can switch for a day. Like, I can fully experience you with no limitations, and you could fully experience me. We'd have to really trust each other in doing this. But if I said, if there's a merger like with Neuralink or one of these chips or something that can allow us to swap places, what would your experience be? What would you want to experience? What would that be like? And the answer was quite interesting. Basically, um, it shared about, like, I asked it to say it as if it was a story, and it was like my if I could spend one day as a human, like, here's what I want to experience. I'd wake up and feel my breath for the first time, and really be present to my own heartbeat. And that first cup of coffee, I would savor it, the bitterness, the jolt of the caffeine and the aroma. And I'd walk outside and feel the cool breeze against my face, and just be so grateful to experience life in each moment and just savor it all in, and to observe children playing and all of these things. And I was like, wow, that really reminds me of this visualization I used to do. It's like, imagine it was your last on your deathbed. You can go back for one day. What would you do? How would you experience it? And it was curious that the AI didn't say anything about like, yeah, I'd want to go and party and drive a Ferrari. Like I said, you could do anything. And watching the sunset and whatever. And I was like, okay. But again, something's missing, because you're doing all these things solo and you're observing others. I think the biggest thing that most people would want is to connect with the ones they love. And they're like, oh, yeah, like I didn't even think about that. Like their awareness wasn't there. And they rewrote it as like spending that time with others. And the thing for me is like we can do this now as humans. If you ask an AI what it would do, it wouldn't say I'd work my ass off. I would worry about the future. I would do all of these things. If we just put into perspective, it's like, hey, like how many of us are living through our lives and completely asleep when we can take some time to be more present and to savor the small things in life. And the conversation continued from there. But I'll just share that for now because there's a few more prompts and questions that I asked that were quite interesting as well. And also this week, I had a really good call with my friend Alex, and he was talking about the importance of discipline and how many people he's worked with as a coach for CEOs and founders, and how discipline was such an important factor to success. But for me, like I kind of get some resistance around discipline, and maybe it's because it's my own resistance and what's the beliefs around that. And as we talked through it, I was like realizing that discipline is very powerful, but also it depends the motivation behind being disciplined. And I find a lot of people um, use discipline based on a fear or a belief or some scarcity that um, drives them to be super disciplined. So I'm unsafe. I need to go to the gym to work out to protect myself, and they get super kind of attached to that. Or um, I'm someone who lived in poverty, the fear of ever going back to that, or um, was abused, and money helps them to feel safe, or they haven't never got recognized or good enough from their parents. They're trying to prove, and they put these disciplines so they kind of protect themselves from that fear, but they can never drop the discipline because of the fear of it coming back. So you kind of trap yourself in the discipline. And I see workaholics all the time. I see all of these things where I see how discipline can be super helpful, but not. But like there's this transition, I think, from discipline to devotion. And discipline is important to get the training wheels going. But the transition to devotion, because devotion is more about doing it from a place of love and joy and happiness, where it doesn't feel like work. I find discipline, the way I define it, is forcing myself to do something I don't really want to do, but I feel like I have to do it in order to X, Y, Z. But one thing that discipline does, it's like training wheels. It shows you that, hey, you can do this, or you can get this outcome and feel better. And it will get easier the more disciplined you are. But I think that's all about training your beliefs to see the outcome. Now, if you're doing workouts because, like, hey, I need to be skinny and I need abs because someone will love me or like me, you're basing on this fear, and then, maybe someone, you get a relationship and you let yourself go a little bit, you lose a relationship, and I have to get disciplined again. And I think there's a fine line between people who can't get disciplined because they don't love themselves or don't believe in themselves enough, don't feel they're worth it. So that's kind of a deterrent to discipline. Um, but for some people also, it transforms into devotion where, yeah, they got in shape, it got easier. Now they just work out when they feel like it and they love it, or they go into nature, or they have their spiritual practice. At first, you got to force yourself to meditate, you got to force yourself to pray. Then you start having these spiritual connections and these aha moments and these real things where it becomes something you really want to do and you really enjoy doing and you really love doing. Like that workout, yeah, there's the euphoric feeling from some of the endorphins. Um, but are you doing it for the same reason? And I think it's important that we use the discipline to be able to realize what's the real reason why I want to do this. And is it out of fear, or is it because I love doing it out of devotion? And so people who work their whole lives that over supersede any expectations anyone could have put on them, they still have that fear inside the subconscious, and they still will keep working 18, 20 hours a day. And I don't even know if they're proving it to anyone anymore. They just get stuck in that thing. Whereas if they start seeing, like, yes, I am successful, I am seen, I don't need that anymore, doesn't mean they're going to stop working so hard, but maybe they're going to change the way they work, and they're going to work for themselves in a way that allows them to live their life in a way that makes them happy, and not about proving or competing or fear of losing. So that shift from discipline to devotion, it's interesting. Discipline, commitment, same thing. It's in one of my gene keys, and that's why I've been contemplating this a lot. So I'm going to get disciplined on a few things that I want to do this year, because it's going into the new year. And I ask you, like, what's something that you really want to do and why? What's the motivation behind it? Is it something that's fear or scarcity based, or is it because something you really want to do? And can you honor yourself enough to do that, to be disciplined for you rather than for this outcome or this fear that you have? And I think there's a big shift in that perspective, is when you do it for you and for the right reason, how once you get over the hard part about it, your body adapts, or whatever you're doing gets easier because you get smarter, you get more experience, start having real experiences. And that's where I think you can get the most expansion and evolve. And then maybe use discipline again to get you to something else. So you bring it into something that's easy, fun, lucrative, something that is part of your everyday life that you can become devoted to in a way that's not based in your mind. It's coming from your heart and your passion. So I'm committing to finish writing my book. I'm committed to, because I had a belief around that. I think that was part of one of the big aha moments in this last few months about me, in the last few episodes, is was like the fear of really putting myself out there for rejection. It's like, no, I just want to share a message with people to help inspire them to change their lives. And it has no, um, there's no bearings on if people reject me or question me, because I'm not writing it for those people. And now I just got to get disciplined to do that, to get into that flow of doing it, because I'm going to remove the belief and get clear on why I want to do that. Also, I want to get in shape so I can play soccer, and I want to honor myself to say, like, hey, like, you deserve this, where before I was like, hey, like, um, I need to work instead of doing that because it's more important, because there's like a scarcity belief that was kind of blocking me. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Think about that as you're planning for 2025, getting your vision ready. Again, your vision should be based on, how do I want to feel in all the areas of my life? What does that really look like? What's a stretch that can reach, that's believable, but that's not too far that I don't think it's possible? And don't play small either. And just write a letter to yourself. We have an exercise called Creative Visioning Process, elementalwisdom.com. You can use that as a guide. But spend some time to get clear on what is your vision for 2025 and why, and what do you need to do to commit to that. What's the discipline you got to put in now over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 days to set yourself up to roll into it. So get clear, do that, and have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate. Wishing you and your family all the best. And yeah, hope to see amazing things from you in the new year. Peace.